What is up, YouTube? Dottz Gaming here, and welcome to my How to Improve at Arena video. And I'm going to give you guys 5 tips and tell you 5 major things I think you need to work on if you want to improve at Arena PvP. I know that these are the things that I worked on to improve my own personal game as I progress through the ladder. So, if this is the first video of mine that you're watching and you don't know my background, I'm a 2100 Feral Druid Legion Season 1, and in the past I've also had 2K, roughly 2K experience on a Shadow Priest and a Warlock. Both were in the 1990s. So I know I'm not the greatest player, 2100, but I'm also not the worst. I did, like I said, my 2K plus experience was very recent, so my knowledge isn't coming from outdated thoughts. It's just these are tips that I picked up from stuff that people have given me, stuff that I've read on forums, stuff that I've personally come up with. It's just a combination of stuff that I turned into one list that I think you guys could benefit from if you're struggling with what to work on and where to start. A lot of this will seem pretty obvious to you, but if you really look at your own gameplay and if you really, you know, critique it at a fine level, you will see that there are a lot of holes in your gameplay. I know at least that's what I did, which pushed me over that 2K hump and actually just propelled me forward to 2100 pretty quickly. So, and the attitude, number 3, is the biggest part of this, but I'm going to get into that in a second. If this is my script that I'm going to be going off of, so if you want to read this as I go along or read it beforehand, go right ahead. But now let me just jump right into it instead of just rambling. So, the first tip is an obvious one: overall game knowledge. You need to know your comp. So this is from a 3v3 angle. You need to know your comp's strengths, weaknesses, strategy, and win condition. You need to know what you excel at, what you need to try to cover up, how to actually play the comp, and what you should be doing to win. And you also need to know that for your opponents so that you know how to defend against them and you can see what they're trying to do to set up their win condition. So if you notice it in the middle, you can try to disrupt it so that you can prevent their win condition. You also want to know what spells to kick. You don't want to just be using your kicks willy-nilly. You don't just want to be kicking random frost bolts. You want to save them for important things like Cyclone, Polymorph, Ice Fury, Stormkeeper, Unstable Affliction. You want to save your kicks for important spells so that you can try to disrupt the enemy team as much as possible. At least at the time of making this video, it is extremely important at the current time to be disrupting DPS. So you need to make sure that you're kicking them at the right times. You also want to know your partners and the enemy's offensive CDs and defensive CDs so that you know when you should go offensive and when you should be playing defensively. And getting higher levels of game knowledge and just learning more and more comes from a combination of not only doing your own personal research, but just practicing and actually playing the game. So if you find yourself struggling with something though, and you're like, I don't know how to play against this comp, or what is me and my team doing wrong with our comp, ask questions on the forums, ask questions on Reddit about class specific questions, like I said, certain comps or how to play yours, and doing this research and getting the knowledge will give you a foundation to work off of to help you progress throughout the game and throughout the ladder, because none of this will be able to work without just a knowledge foundation about the game. So like I said, play the game, do more research, and as hurdles and obstacles come up, just ask more questions. And add-ons that I think you could benefit from are big debuffs and Gladius that will help you get as much information from your UI as possible so that you can keep track of the enemy's trinkets and you can see what cooldowns are on people's unit frames. Those are 2 add-ons I definitely recommend. The second tip, the second major thing I think you guys need to pay attention to is communication. You want to try to talk about your strategy before the game. CC chains, individual responsibilities, who's going to do what. And if you lose, talk about what went wrong, who screwed up, what could you guys have done differently. And you also want to call out things such as offensive and defensive CDs, kicks, target swaps, and all those types of things for your enemies. So you want to just call out things as they come. Your partner might see something that you don't see, and you might see something your partner doesn't see. It's always better to be more vocal than not be vocal enough. A lot of times, if you're too quiet and you didn't have a defensive cooldown, but your healer thought you did, you guys might lose because of something like that. But communication and my biggest topic, attitude, kind of blend into each other a little bit. So, attitude, in my opinion, is the thing that will separate your just average Joe PvPer from actually progressing and actually becoming good at a game. This applies to WoW Arena, League of Legends, sports, like literally almost anything. And if you always think you're the best, even if your rating doesn't show it because you quote unquote deserve it, that's just not a good attitude to have and is going to hold you back. But these are some tips that I think if you have to admit to yourself if you have that attitude. But this is, in my opinion, the type of attitude you should have. Do not leave after one game. Don't do it. Just don't. I know for me, if I'm pugging a group, I generally wait until like 3 games or so. If you see my third tip, I usually for LFG make my rule of thumb 3 horrible games because building synergy just takes time and getting in a rhythm will take a little bit. There's different comps, different play styles, etc. And it takes a couple games sometimes to get used to how people play. But if you guys like lose 3 horrible games, you guys might not just work together, or you or they or someone might just be terrible. But don't if you're playing with someone though, don't be a douche under 0 situations, okay? And it has no time. And some of you need this lesson, some of you don't because you're not dumb, but some of you do. In no circumstance have you ever yelled at someone and they went from being a complete shitter to a BlizzCon finalist. If you just scream at someone and tell them that they suck and tell them to drop dead and uninstall whatever, that's not going to change their gameplay. You're going to get mad, you're going to get tilted, they're going to get upset, they're going to get tilted. Just if someone's not playing well or you're not playing well, just leave gracefully because they could just be having an off day. And if you're having an off day, you're not going to want someone to be a complete dick to you. So don't be a complete dick to someone else. And like I said, if you have to leave the group because either the players aren't very good or you just aren't gelling with them, just leave peacefully. And your ultimate goal is to try to find partners that you can play with long term so that you can learn and grow as a team and build synergy. And that's also going to touch on my fourth point, but I'll hold that off on that for a second. Now, this goes back to communication with the being more vocal is always better than being less vocal, unless you're super hyper aggressive and on edge, because you will just tilt your team. I remember me and my brother one time played with this one guy who he said everything. Don't get me wrong. In terms of his overall communication, it was fine, but he yelled everything. He literally just screamed every word that came out of his mouth. I had to lower my headset because he was so fucking loud. And you will piss off your teammates and make them more tense if you're just super hyper aggressive and on edge the whole time. People can feel that type of stuff through your voice. So you need to just play. Just play the game. Just relax and play. Like even just play. You don't have to be super hyper aggressive and on edge. And when you're trying to improve, you want to try to look internally instead of externally, because you can only control your actions. So you want to focus on your play first and foremost. Try your best to almost never say there was nothing I could do. A lot of times they'll lose a game and go, "There's nothing I can do. It was their fault. What could I have done? What could I have done?" Well, in many situations, if you actually go back and watch your games, if you recorded them, because I know this has happened to me before, you'll notice a lot of holes in your gameplay, and you'll be able to say, "Okay, I should have positioned myself here because I would have been able to get that kick." Or I should have walled when they popped that CD. I saw it on big debuffs and Gladius, but I didn't pop my defensive cooldown. Or I let my dots fall off of that target too often. That's why my damage was low. Or I refreshed my dots too often and just wasted globals. Therefore, I had a DPS loss. And now these are just some examples, but I always try to look internally first and fix my mistakes before I try to critique others. That's just the way to do it. You can only control your gameplay, so focus on your gameplay first. Now, this is not by any means me saying to not criticize or give your team criticisms. If one of your teammates made an error or glaring, like something glaring that you pick up on, give them a criticism. It will help them improve, Maybe you notice something about their gameplay, like, oh, maybe you should have been positioned here. But just don't be a dick about it. Tell them, hey, like, work on your positioning a little bit. Like, you could try to put yourself here instead, or yo, try not to waste your kick, save it for this, or hey, play more aggressive. You're missing a kill window. Like, if you notice something, just help them. Help the person, but just don't be an ass about it. Don't come off like a dick. Now, my number 4 tip is consistent partners, and this for me was the biggest struggle when I was playing WoW PvP. Okay, I'm lucky I had my brother, because we could not, all right, over like 9 weeks, we couldn't find a single consistent partner to queue with. But it should be your ultimate goal, is to try to find consistent partners and only pug when necessary. So for me, my general rule of thumb is that I like to pug at the start of the season and add people who are cool and who I kind of jive with and I feel like we have a good synergy with and who we just generally like, to my Battletech friends list, and I'll send a note on them going, this is their class and this is their specs, so that when I'm going through my Battletech friends list, I can kind of remember who each person is. Sometimes I'll even put their name in there so that I don't hover my mouse over it and go, who the hell is this? You know. So you want to try to make your own personal LFG. I don't know if that makes sense. You want to try to expand your list as much as possible with people that you can play with, and if that's eventually empty and like everyone's logged off and offline, then go to LFG. And Reddit and the forums can also be a really good helpful tool as well to get yourself started with building a friends list. And over time, if you continually queue with at least enough like of the similar people over time, you will build synergy with them as you play with them, and eventually your gameplay as a group will improve and go up. And the 5th and final tip, of course, is just practice. You can't actually improve and get better unless you put steps 1 through 4 into practice. And improving takes time and takes a lot of games. That's the biggest thing, is you need to just play the game. You need to practice and you need to play. And you need to try to play with an attitude of, I'm trying to get better. If you play with an attitude of, I'm trying to win, it actually, ironically, sometimes will be harder for you, because you'll tunnel, you'll be too focused that you won't be looking at the bigger picture. You'll just be completely tunneled on what your character is doing. Just practice and play to improve yourself as a player and as just like an in-game arena partner, and the rating will just naturally come. As you improve yourself, the rating will just come along with it. It's just how it goes. So I know for me, it wasn't until I admitted some serious flaws that I saw in my gameplay and in my like self with playing the game, that working on those things was how I improved. And especially it helped me posting that stuff to YouTube, because there was a lot of stuff that you guys pointed out that I was screwing up on, that I would then look back and was like, you know what, they're right. And the next time I played, I kept that mentally in my head, like, I only have 4 combo points. Wait for a 5th. Like little things that, and like I know some of you were like, duh, like, of course. But, in the heat of a moment, you could be like, well, I have 4 combo points. If I use this rip, I can get a predatory swiftness proc, toss out a regrowth, and like, blah, blah, blah. Just, you want to kind of take a step back, look at your gameplay that you've practiced, and in time, you will learn. So, those are my 5 tips, guys. I hope they helped, and I hope you pulled something from them. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below, or if you have any tips to give other people, leave them below as well. I would like to see a really cool discussion going on in the comments, and I really hope that these tips help you guys learn about WoW PvP and WoW Arena in general, and give you a direction on what you need to work on and how to improve at Arena so that you guys can get some sweet rating. So, thanks for watching, guys. If this video helped you, please hit it with that like. And like I said, leave a comment. And as always, please subscribe. So, thank you for watching, guys. I'm Dottz Gaming. Have a wonderful day.